Hey, welcome to the channel. I know a lot of y'all have been confused and have not really understood Lord of the Mysteries up until this point. Reddit has been going crazy. The comments for a lot of big reactors are going crazy. Everybody has a feeling about Lord of the Mysteries. But today, I thought we'd react to fully understanding what episode 1 had to offer so that we can get on the right track and fully understand what Lord of the Mystery has to offer. So if y'all haven't yet watched this video here, we're going to go ahead and watch it. And I'm going to tell y'all how I feel based off of what I know so far of Lord of the Mysteries and what they're teaching us. So lock in, enough of my riffraff. Let's get our Lord of the Mysteries on.
Lord of Mysteries
Break it down for me. Break it down for me.
That's not because it's impossible to watch without. It's just there's so much lore that the Dongwa can't possibly cover all of it.
And I understand that.
Whether it be Beyonders and Pathways, the mysterious kingdom Klein now finds himself in, the churches and cults, or the history behind all of it, every aspect is fleshed out in rich and overwhelming detail.
Well, let me learn. Let me
learn. A lot of you
learn.
might be confused with what you watched from episode 1, but I promise that sense of bewilderment is all part of it. Just like how Klein is unsure of where he is, how he got here, and what's going on around him,
Because he's in a
we
new
too
world.
are thrust into this world with no information whatsoever. Yes, the pace.
So it definitely feels like us. We're thrust in the middle of Lord of the Mysteries without knowing a god darn thing of what's going on. How many of y'all feel like as soon as y'all started watching Lord of the Mysteries and you got through episode 1, you thought it was the greatest thing in the world? Then you got to episode 2 and you was like, wait, what? We jumped? What in the world is going on? Comment below how many of y'all thought the same thing.
Pacing is undoubtedly fast, but I think this video can really help to alleviate that.
I hope so, because I got a lot of
if you're
questions.
looking to better understand Lord of Mysteries and see how episode 1 compares to the novel, stick around as this will cover all of that.
Perfect.
Episode 1. The
All right,
Fool,
here we go. The Fool.
covering chapters 1 to 14 from the web novel.
Oh, wow.
Where the
It
anime
went through
starts
all
with a very
14?
brief description of
So I started reading, or not reading, but listening to the Lord of the Mysteries from episode 1 to like 10. And I felt like episode 1 was more than 1 to 14 because I was hella confused after a certain point that I was like, wait, I ain't read this part yet. Hold on. Hold on. But now now it's good to know that it was 1 through 14 that it covered in episode 1, which is a lot of episodes to cover in a 30-minute segment.
Beyonders and Pathways. The novel begins immediately with Klein's transmigration. A
That's him
concept
coming to
most of
Earth.
you might be more familiar
Or
with
to that
as
body.
getting isekai'd. His awakening was met with quite a bit of confusion since paralysis, pain, and headaches overwhelmed his entire body.
Yeah, the pain and headaches came from him getting shot in the head. Duh.
He hadn't yet realized he wasn't Chou Ming Shui anymore, so the main source of his panic was thinking.
So that was the thing that I had learned in the book. Sorry I keep stopping it, but we gonna get through this together. But that was one of the things I learned in the book. That was the name that I couldn't remember in episode 1, was the Xiao Ming Groi, or whatever he said, because that was who the book started out as with the name, and then it transitioned into Klein.
He might not be able to show up to work tomorrow. It was once his body finally allowed himself to move again that Klein would take in his surroundings, then himself. Immediately he knew this was a transmigration he'd read about in so many novels before, so while younger him might have been overjoyed to be in a situation he'd always fantasized about, the current him just found it troublesome. Eventually his panic would subside, and it was soon after that memories of the original Klein would start appearing to him. He would learn all the general info we saw in the anime, plus a bit of extra details regarding his family.
Okay, so this is all about Klein. He's a citizen of the Northern Continent Leon Kingdom. Loen Kingdom. Awa County, city of Tenjin. He went to Koi University, recent graduated, was history. So he's a history buff, and mother and father is gone.
So, his father was a sergeant who'd sacrificed himself during a conflict with the southern continent, a loss which would provide the compensation enabling him to attend private language school. This in turn laid the foundation allowing him to get into university, a period of time where his mother would pass away as well. That being the case, all Klein has left is his elder brother, a younger sister, and the 2-bedroom apartment they stay in.
Okay.
They're by no means wealthy at all, but they are supported by their elder brother and his income at an import and export company.
What in the
Now,
hell?
as a history graduate
I feel like they could have put a little bit of that into some of the memories he had, right? Like as he woke up in the first episode, I feel like as soon as it started rushing in all about his memories, if it would have taken a little bit of time to kind of cover that his parents were both dead, his brother was helping, and his sister was there, giving it, I'm not asking for like a 10-minute history, but at least like 2 minutes to kind of give us context behind who Klein Missouri is, right? Or am I just asking for too much?
himself, Klein has a solid knowledge of the origin for all languages in the northern continent, as well as the
Fesak.
more rare Hermes language, the origin
So
for all
Fesak is the ancient language deemed the origin of all languages in the northern continent. So is that like English?
languages in the northern continent, as well as the more rare Hermes language, more
Hermes, the ancient language more commonly found in the ancient. So maybe it's English and then Hermes is Southern twang? Nah, I'm just
commonly
kidding. I
used
don't
in
know.
ancient texts and praying
Don't cook me
rituals.
in the comments.
This is the language the mysterious notebook was written in, but rather
Hermes.
than have numerous bits be translated like Black Emperor or the Tudor Kingdom, the only line Klein read was the final one.
Everyone will
As
die.
shocking of a statement as it was,
Well,
Klein's
damn,
attention
that's
couldn't help
generalized.
but shift towards the revolver. Reason being that if his family was as poor as it was, then how was it that they could afford this weapon? Even the gas lamp was something far out of their budget, but that was a gift his older brother Benson saved up for. You
But
see,
how the hell?
because
But how are we supposed to know all of this? I love that they put this together, and I absolutely appreciate the narrator and this video. But in episode 1, I feel like a lot of the context that he's going over from the book would help us understand more about who Klein was and why the decisions Klein make the sense that it makes through these episodes.
Klein's success would affect their family's future as a whole, Benson had used his own savings in order to ensure Klein had the best conditions to study in. It
That
was
was
a negotiation with
Benson,
the
his
landlord
brother.
that resulted in this. This, however, was a gas meter, and it required one single coin to operate. A copper penny.
I remember
typically
making a
used
comment
as the
about that.
basic currency for the Lone Kingdom. Klein would then see it was still the dead of night, so that's when he figured he should clean up his room before his sister woke up. It was a routine trip to the bathroom, triggering another one of his memory fragments. This time it was about his landlord, Mr. Frankie, and all the times he would inspect the bathroom to make sure no one was wasting anything. That's not really that important, but what is are the occasional memory fragments, as well as the fact Klein got a washcloth then cleaned all the bloodstains from his former self-suicide attempt. He would then empty out the revolver, take in once again the ominous line he read, then go over all the questions currently plaguing him. So it's pretty clear that Klein is rather insightful.
It wouldn't have been fake suicide considering he shot himself, right? Right?
He takes his time to let things sink in, then thinks about them carefully before coming to any conclusions. Most of his questions weren't any he knew he needed to concern himself with just yet, as the true problem now was figuring out why he was isekai'd and how he could return. There were too many things back at his old life that he didn't want to leave behind.
Wait, where
There were
did they
too many
get
things back at his
these?
old life.
Like, where did they, are these just animations, or was there another animation attempt to create Lord of the Mysteries and this is where it came from? Comment below if you know what it is. If this image is coming for these images, are they coming from another anime, just a random anime, and he's just plugging them in, or AI? Or is this from another attempt at Lord of the Mysteries that was released in China but didn't make it worldwide? I'm very curious to know.
That he didn't want to leave behind. This triggered the last memory he had before he got here, and that was his attempt at Chinese divination. You see, as someone who was terminally online, Cho had purchased a book on the arcane thinking it would help him improve his posturing on the internet. It really didn't help at all, so for a while he just left the book tucked away in a corner. It was when a spree of bad luck started plaguing him for about a month that Cho would put his divination knowledge to use. He would go and attempt what's
Is this like another cartoon of Lord of the Mysteries? I wonder how that did.
known as the luck enhancement ritual. The steps were exactly as we saw in the anime, plus a chant a bit more complex than just the celestial worthy. Klein had actually said the accurate version in this scene here, but for some reason it just wasn't translated properly. In any case,
that ain't for some reason. Somebody just used a poor translating app, because I done seen some of the words that were said in the actual episode, and I knew that was not the meaning that was in the translation because I know a little bit of Mandarin. Only a little bit. Idian didn't.
It was once the 4 steps were taken and the chants spoken that 5 minutes was all it took for the luck enhancement to take effect. Well, nothing happened after 5 minutes for him, but his transmigration did occur that exact same night. Considering that's more than just an unlikely coincidence, Klein decided he would try the luck enhancement ritual again. Thus why we see him buying all the bread the day after. It was—
But wait. Wasn't the bread because his sister said the bread, because he felt the bread that his sister gave him was stale? But now he's saying, the narrator in this video is, it was for the specific spell that he was about to make. Make up your mind, Lucy!
For the time being, though, that Cho would attempt to discover more about himself. Since Klein's memories were partially available to him, he could sit down and recall whatever fragments were there. The thing is, a lot of the more pertinent things weren't. His memories were like shattered glass, missing pieces all throughout.
That's why we didn't get the full
remember
explanation
how
of
he'd
his
attained the
family.
revolver, whether he'd been killed or killed himself, or even the meaning behind any of the words in the notebook. He also couldn't remember much about his university life, but what he did know was that he had an interview with another university's history department. Since he'd just graduated from the Koi University, his mentor had given him a recommendation letter for 2 other ones, one of which he would be interviewing at for a lecture position in just 2 days. It was a position that, if offered, would boost his family's socioeconomic status way higher, compared to his—
They definitely have Chinese hierarchy in this. Because if you become a teacher or anybody that works for the government, your status automatically skyrockets. So I guess there is some line there that kind of crosses over into the Chinese culture.
His brother's salary of just over £1 a week, the lecturer's position gave almost quadruple. So this was an opportunity that could change all their lives for the better. Now, Melissa's entrance after would also carry quite a bit of information too, since it's here we learn of the ties between Lowen's education department and religion. In the past, Sunday school was offered by various churches, but in an attempt to mitigate conflict and maintain religious neutrality, the kingdom enacted a basic education law. Rather than have the Lord of Storms, the Evernight Goddess, and the God of Steam and Machinery all compete, the kingdom instead established public schools. I don't expect those titles to have any meaning to you right now, but it does.
I was like, I'm lost. Where the hell did the Lord of Storms, Evernight Goddess, and God of Steam and Machinery come from? Is that like part of the novel? I wonder if that's like the Harry Potter side of things, where you have the different volumes which have different names. Do you know how like the Game of Thrones series, they each had like different volumes to kind of understand it? I wonder if it's written in that way.
All compete. The kingdom instead established public schools. I don't expect those titles to have any meaning to you right now, but it does introduce the idea of multiple churches and their influence over society. In any case, Melissa herself aspires to be a steam mechanic, a passion also supported by her older brother Benson.
We didn't see much of him, so that's why I didn't know who it was.
On the costly side, Benson would have to work overtime and take jobs that were a bit more dangerous. It's for that reason we don't
MVP.
really see him, since work has kept him more or less preoccupied.
Makes sense.
For those wondering why Klein doesn't help out too, well, as a commoner very far behind in the university curriculum, it takes all his time just to keep up with it. Like where all the other students learned the origin language young, Klein's first contact with it was here. That being the case, studying was pretty much all Klein did. Now, what Klein—
So what they try to tell me is Klein rode the short bus, and because Klein was on the short bus, he didn't learn as fast as everybody else. And so because he ain't learning everybody else, he had to go at the special grade, like the special pace. And so that's why he has no time to go have a second job, because he needs to put all his time into learning. Did I get that right?
Klein picked up here was the most valuable item his father left behind.
The pocket watch.
Due to its secondhand nature, it would often malfunction. Melissa, being the aspiring mechanic she was, often needed to fix it herself. It's a feat we see her do once again here. She would then leave to attend her classes, a walk which normally took about 50 minutes. There was the option
50?
to always take a horse carriage, but due to its costs, she decided against it. A quick bit of lore included shortly after this is that days and years function pretty much the same here. The reason days are split the way they are here, though, is directly due to the influence of religion. You see, there were 7 Orthodox gods carrying influence.
7 Orthodox gods: the eternal blazing sun, the Lord of the storm, the Lord of storms, the God of knowledge and wisdom, the Evernight goddess, Mother Earth, the God of war, and the God of steam and machinery. Are these tied to like Greek mythology, do you think? I was never a Greek mythologist, like person who was into it, so I can't really like pinpoint all of where it is, but I feel like the God of war was also like a Greek god. Is the eternal blazing sun Icarus, who flew too close to the sun? The Lord of the storm, the person that controls the weather. I feel like there is some kind of overlap, but I'm not great at Greek mythology. But comment below if I'm on the right track here.
Influence over the northern continent, each of which I assume get a day of their own. Next came an explanation to the Lowen Kingdom's currency system, but due to its confusing nature and grossly uneven denominations, I'll give it some time to see if knowing about it is actually worth it. For now, all you gotta know is that Klein and his family are broke. Klein also has an unnatural passion towards
broke.
money, so
we all
the man
struggling.
spent a whole minute admiring it before finally setting out to spend it. Now, at first he was hesitant to bring the revolver too, but considering it was the only defensive weapon he had, Klein figured he could at least use
And Klein slings the hell out of that pistol. Klein ready to pull that thing at any waking moment. Just watch the episodes.
it to intimidate someone. Why would he need to do that? Well, his neighborhood was by no means classy.
Damn.
The streets were filthy and the poor and starving were everywhere, so
I remember
the odds of there
saying this was
being
like Gangs
thieves
of New
were
York.
actually quite high. Even more so with all the children getting exploited to become them. It was after Klein had purchased the bread that a trailing figure wouldn't be what sent him into the tarot tent. In the novel, he would just stumble upon it by chance, then decide to take part since the origin of tarot here was different than how it was on Earth. You see, not only did Roselle create that, along with all the other inventions Klein mentioned, he also invaded nations, brought others under his protection, and made them all bow down to his own empire. It was from this the Church of Craftsmanship would receive its first public holy revelation, changing the god of craftsmanship to the god of steam and machinery. Again, I wouldn't get too caught up on what any of that means, but would instead just focus on the fact Roselle was the one who caused it. He also created a fleet that discovered a route to the southern continent, leading to the beginning of an era of colonialism. The year 1198 was when he was finally betrayed, assassinated by a combination of forces from a rebelling church and the former royal family known as the Sauron family. Such was the knowledge Klein flooded himself with,
I feel
leading
like
to his interest in the terror.
How many of y'all feel like right now that with this video, I love what he's doing, but if it's not needed to know why is he saying it, I get that he wants to give context, and I appreciate that, but we're going in so deep that it's starting to confuse me about who the king was, why he was murdered, and now what does that have to do with Klein? Y'all feel me?
Tarot cards. He was also intrigued by the lady herself, curious to see if she could divine that he was a transmigrator. The ritual itself was pretty much the same, but the number of the Fool card is actually supposed to be 0. To Klein, he assumed this symbolized a fresh beginning and new possibilities, but that was based off a very basic understanding of tarot. It was before he could find out what it really meant, though, that the real fortune teller would interrupt and stop them. Klein would then leave since the ritual was no longer free, purchase the rest of food, then head back home to complete his own ritual. He decided he would do it first in his own language, then should that fail, proceed to do it in the languages native to this world. So, with a whisper, a chant, another whisper, and a meditation, Klein would complete the 4 steps of the luck ritual, then quickly be overwhelmed by the sounds of whispers. He could neither understand nor distinguish what any of the voices were saying, but what he did know was that the pain of experiencing it was unbearable. It was once that pain finally subsided that Klein would find himself surrounded.
Was the pain the shot in the head that he received from the revolver, or was the pain something completely different?
By fog. It was an endless gray fog dotted with countless crimson stars floating in the distance. 2 of these stars he accidentally touched, leading them to burst open and empty both his mind and spirit. On the other side would be Audrey trying to awaken this royal heirloom, while Alger would be in the Sonia Sea holding a relic of his own. Both items would envelop their holders with a crimson light, sending them to the same gray fog where Klein was at. This much we already saw, but what we didn't see was Klein's deliberation between his 2 options here. He could either feign victimhood, hide his identity and gain their trust, or maintain his mysterious persona and probe for valuable information. There was little time to actually make this decision, so Klein decided he would exploit the psychological state of those thrown into such a situation and use that to gain the greatest advantage for himself. He couldn't quite make out who exactly he was talking to, but he figured the stronger he got and the more he understood what this domain of his was, eventually he might be able to see through the fog. For now, the roles were made absolutely clear. Here they were the visitors and he the master. To Klein, their image was nothing more than a projection from the stars he had touched, creating what he could only assume was an intangible connection only he himself.
Okay, so let me get an understanding. Based off what he's saying here, they can't see Klein, and Klein can't see what Justice and Hangman looks like. But they're sitting in the fog, and the fog is what's blocking from either one of them seeing anyone in the fog seeing each other. But in the anime, it shows that they can see, we can see that they can see each other, but in reality, they can't see each other. Right? I think I got that right.
Himself could grasp. That's why he made it clear they could leave whenever they wanted, since with him being the one in control, he wanted to show he carried no ill intent towards them. This made things a bit more comfortable for Audrey, allowing her to open up and ask her question of how to become a Beyonder. A Beyonder wasn't someone the average person would probably ever meet, but they did exist, whether in courts, tribunals, execution agencies, or other organizations. They were still fighting like how Alger said, it's just there's a lot less of them compared to the number that existed during the early years of the Iron Age. A lengthy period of time dictating the current and ongoing era of the 5th Epoch. So, if Audrey wanted to become a Beyonder in this day and age, then all she needed to do was join a church. That was the first step towards doing so. This typically involved losing her freedom though, so the only other option was to seek out royal families or nobles with a history branching 1,000 years into the past. That or seek out some of the more evil organizations hidden in the shadows. None of these were to Audrey's liking, so her inquiry into other options would lead Alger to reveal his own solution. The 2 Sequence 9 potions he himself possessed. These potions were the only way people could become Beyonders, and the name of said potion usually coincided with their core characteristics. That being the case, for the first potion known as the Sailor, this enabled one to have incredible balance, granted immense strength and illusory scales under the skin.
I love that they're now going over the other potions, because in the original anime, it didn't really tell much about the choices in which Klein had, because he just jumped right in and chose the Seer. So I like that the fact that they're going into it. So one of the potions was the Sailor. He had the, let's make sure we cover it all.
Proficiency at swimming then greatly enhanced one's mobility underwater.
So for Sailor, it makes sense everything has to do with water or being on the water. Enables incredible balance. That's what you need when you want a boat. I ain't got it. I throw up all over the place. I get motion sickness. Grants immense strength. You need that, especially if you're sailing and throwing around luggage and everything else. Provides illusory scales. I guess you should be able to see land and envision where you're going. I might be wrong on the definition, but forgive me. Better at swimming. You damn sure better know how to swim, especially if you're about to be a sailor. That's why I don't get on a boat. I'm not the strongest swimmer. I look like a wounded seal, and boy, do I look like a snack to a shark. So I'm probably not going to be swimming anywhere. Enhanced underwater mobility. Another thing I don't have. I don't swim, and I don't know how to go underwater. Doggy paddling is as much as I get to. So that makes 100% sense on why I'm not a sailor.
So, for the person who ingested it, they could easily swim like a fish without equipment and just as easily last underwater for at least 10
But that
minutes.
wouldn't work for Klein because
Such were
Klein's not on the
powers that
water.
Came with the Sequence 9 potion.
So that makes sense why Hangman would have that potion because he was already on a boat.
Sailor. Spectator granted an exceptionally sharp mind and observational abilities, so
Ooh,
the digestion
Spectator.
of this would allow its user to easily read people. Whether it's through their emotions or conduct, a person's real thoughts would always be on display for them. The key warning with a potion like this, though, is that once a spectator, you can only ever be a spectator.
Oh.
They were words that didn't really go to sway Audrey, though, so without hesitation, she would express her interest in the spectator potion.
Because she ain't got to
The
get her
deal
hands
was that
dirty.
in exchange for 100 milliliters of ghost shark blood, Alger would then give Audrey the formula for it. Neither had any concerns the other wouldn't follow through, since, under the eyes of the fool, they felt assured. Alger would then give her the location to which she needed to send the shark's blood to, after which he would dictate the
Warrior and Sea Bar, Pelican Street, White Roseboro, Pritz Harbor.
formula's potion to her here. Now, Alger was rather ingenious with the way he approached all this, since the offering of his services wasn't just for show. No, since these gatherings were something he was pulled into without consent, if more were to happen and he couldn't refuse, then the best thing to do was reap as many benefits as he could.
Makes sense.
He'd already secured a resource that was rather difficult to obtain, and that to him was just the beginning. So, with their combined backgrounds, resources, and information networks, Alger believed he could get quite a great deal from these gatherings. Klein had no problem accepting these gatherings either, since already they've shed quite a bit of light on Beyonders and other secrets. So, if he was truly dedicated to figuring out how to get back home, getting as much information as possible was always a positive, even if it did put his own secrets at risk. Now, with this gathering coming to a close, the founding of the Tarot Club would lead to insight on the tarot cards themselves. Just like in our own world, tarot cards here didn't come equipped with the power to divine the future. No, the divinity of such things came from the person
Past,
themselves.
present, and future.
Everyone has something spiritual, allowing them to attune themselves to the spiritual world, and it's the tarot cards that help people interpret the signs they receive from it. Most of those signs will go unnoticed, but for those that aren't, it's divination tools like tarot cards that will help you understand them. The cards
Ever since we had that crook, Miss Cleo, I've never really went into tarot cards. You don't need to tell me my past, present, and future. Because the past is already there. I can't relive it. The present, I can make my choices now based off what the past has given me. The future, I hope that my present has taught me enough lessons and I make the right moves to make my future the way it needs to be. That's just my 2 cents.
Roselle made are a whole separate thing, each representing an unknown power and one of the 22 paths to the divine. There was mention of it originating from what's called a blasphemy slate, but these are all concepts we'll learn more about in the future. For now, this would be it for the gathering, and Klein would chalk up his experience as an incredible convenience. With its ability to communicate with others wherever and whenever, Klein would describe the Grey Fog as something akin to a social networking platform. As for the guests
It's
Klein just
Facebook.
hosted, they actually got a whole chapter depicting things from their end. It's some side character development that could still come in the future, so that's something that we'll leave for later. I think this is a pretty good place to stop, so I'll be sure to continue the series with the rest of episode 1 next week. If you liked learning more about the show and want to see more, then
We gonna subscribe to him. He know what he doing. We gonna subscribe to him. So if y'all watching me watch this, make sure y'all go subscribe to my boy. It's Anime Sam. So make sure y'all go check it out.